According to myths, urban legends, and stories, giants are extremely intimidating and scary. But I'm here to let you know that you are not the one that needs to be afraid.
Mogul Motivation, empowering and inspiring entrepreneurs and dream chasers worldwide, 1 week at a time. Presented by True Stories Media. And I'm your host, Antoine Twiz Taylor.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mogul Motivation. Welcome back. I'm happy that you are here. If this is your first time listening, this podcast is for the aspiring entrepreneur trying to get over that hump and make things happen. This podcast is for anybody with a dream that wants to go forward and accomplish that dream. King David in the Bible, the Old Testament, King David of Israel, the one who was after God's own heart, the most famous and revered king of all of Israel. King David was anointed king when he was simply a shepherd boy. Samuel was sent by God to anoint David, not his older brothers, but David, the youngest one from the tribe of Jesse, the youngest one who was the shepherd boy. He was anointed as king. And then as David got older, he still did not become king. One day, the Israelites was at war with the Philistines, and there was a huge Philistine by the name of Goliath. Goliath, in the Bible, it says, stood about 9 feet tall, and none of the Israelites wanted to face him, not even Saul himself. But David chose to face Goliath. David had the courage to go out there into the field and meet this giant head on. And he slayed Goliath. David killed Goliath, and David chopped Goliath's head off after the fact. And because of that, David was revered. That's when David's popularity, that's when the love for David began to grow and grow and grow. So much so that even before he became king, David was so popular. It said David killed tens of thousands, whereas the current king of Israel at the time, Saul, killed thousands. David stamped his legacy at that moment. Now here's the thing. David was anointed king before he killed Goliath. And even after he killed Goliath, David still was not king. But David was anointed king, though, which means Goliath was a part of the plan the entire time. You see, Goliath was David's giant, but your giant might be something different. My giant is something different. Your giant could be low credit. Your giant could be $3 in your bank account. Your giant could be alcoholism. Your giant could be substance abuse. Your giant could be some sort of disease you're battling. Your giant could be fear, insecurity. All of our giants are different. They vary, but the one thing they all have in common is they strike fear into us. These giants strike fear into us. These giants make us feel like that destiny that God has promised us is so far away and we cannot reach it. But you have to understand, running from it is not going to save you. You cannot run from these giants. Whatever that giant is, you have to face it head on and go out into the field and meet that giant, just as King David did. King David went out into the field to meet that giant when nobody else wanted to do it. King David was the only Israelite probably capable of killing Goliath, but he was the only one that had the courage to do it. You have to have courage right now. Whatever you are battling in your entrepreneurial journey, whatever you are battling in your personal life, whatever that giant is that's standing across that field, that giant that's striking fear into your heart, you have no reason to be afraid, because you have to understand that giant is a part of your journey in the first place. Understand, it was part of King David's journey to kill Goliath. It was literally part of his journey. He was anointed as king as a shepherd boy. Then he killed Goliath. And then even after he killed Goliath, he still did not become king. But the popularity started to grow for him to become king in the near future. It's part of your journey. Giants are not here to hinder you. Giants are not here to kill you. You are here to kill the giants, and so you can become stronger and more courageous in the process. So whatever that giant is on your entrepreneurial journey or in your personal life, I'm here to let you know right now, it is not meant to kill you. It is simply meant to build your courage and allow you to flourish so you can fulfill your destiny that God has ordained for you, ladies and gentlemen. Giants are not invincible. You see, we have been programmed and brainwashed to believe that these giants are so intimidating that they cannot fall, that they cannot bleed. Giants are not invincible. Giants are made to be destroyed. Giants are made to be slayed, and you have to be the one to slay that giant. You have to do it for yourself first and foremost, but you have to do it for the next generation. You have to do it for the generations after that. Giants, ladies and gentlemen, are not put in your progress and on your journey to make you turn away. Running from it is not going to save you. The only way you can get to the finish line, the only way you can get to what God has promised you, the only way you can get to what you desire is if you run right through that giant. And not not only do you have to run through that giant, you have to slay that giant. You have to cut that giant's head off, because you have to leave no doubt that you are the one that's ordained for this. You are him. You are her. You are the one that's blessed. You are the one that's anointed. You are the one that's capable to carry this burden and make things happen in this life and on this journey. That's why King David cut his head off, because King David cut that giant's head off. He cut Goliath's head off, even after he was defeated, to strike fear in everything that was sent to destroy him and sent to stop him. All of the Philistines fled. They were afraid after that, because their champion was murdered. Their champion was defeated. They didn't think it was possible. Poor credit is not going to defeat you. This disease is not going to defeat you. This season is not going to defeat you. This dry spell you're going through in your business is not going to defeat you. Your insecurity, your anxiety is not going to defeat you. These giants will not slay you. You will slay the giant. Point blank, period. One of my favorite games of all time, one of the greatest video arcade games that's ever been created, is Mortal Kombat. Created right here in Chicago by Ed Boon and Midway Games, now NetherRealm Studios. That's a topic I can do for sociology one point in time in the near future. Make sure you listen to sociology. But anyway, Mortal Kombat, one of my favorite games. There's a mode on there, I call it tower mode. Me and my friends, we call it tower mode, where you're basically playing against the computer, and every time you defeat an opponent, you move up the tower. And each opponent you face gets harder and harder until you get to the top. Now the thing is, once you get to the top and face that final opponent, it's going to be the hardest fight clearly in the game. And you cannot win the game unless you defeat that final boss. And just as I said earlier in the episode, this final boss could vary. It could be Johnny Cage, it could be Goro, it could be Liu Kang, it could be Scorpion, it could be Sub-Zero. That final boss could be anybody, but you better believe it's going to be the hardest fight that you're going to face. That's why all of our giants vary. We can't attack a giant just as somebody else will attack their giant, because our giants differ in size, they differ in weapons, and they differ in image. So therefore, at the end of this game, whenever you are fighting that final boss, it will get frustrated. But understand, the only way you can beat the game is if you go through this final boss. You cannot simply get to the final boss to the end of the game and say, you know what, I didn't beat everybody else, I'm done, I'm gonna just leave it right here. No, if you want to win the game in Mortal Kombat, you have to defeat that final boss. If you want to succeed in business, if you want to succeed in life, if you want to succeed in your career, you have to defeat this boss. You have to slay this giant that's staring right at you in your eyes. You have to slay that giant that's right there in front of you. I know you're afraid. I know you feel like you tried many, many times in the past, but I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't for God, you would not have come this far. And I'm telling you right now, it is because of God that you have to slay this giant, because that giant was put there simply for your elevation, simply for your triumph. That giant is not here to defeat you. You think it's going to defeat you. You think it has defeated you in the past, but let me tell you one thing right now. If you are still breathing, if you still have vision in your mind, if you still have enthusiasm, if you still have some hope, if you still have an ounce of faith in your heart, that giant will not defeat you. You are meant to slay that giant. I don't care what it is. I don't care what you're going through. And I can't tell you how to fight this battle, because that's not my giant. I know how to fight my giants. I know how to slay my giants. I know how to beat the big bosses in my life, but I can't tell you how to do it. Only you know what you got to do. But running from it is not going to save you. Running from it is not going to help you. Running from it is not going to bring you peace. The only thing that's going to bring you peace, the only thing that's going to bring you destiny, the only thing that's going to bring you fulfillment is if you equip yourself with what God has gave you, your skills, your talent, your intellect, your courage, and you go forward and you slay this giant that's in front of you so you can inherit everything that you deserve. King David was anointed king as a shepherd boy. When he was at the bottom, when he didn't have much money, when he didn't have a car, when he didn't have a home, when he didn't have all the things that you have now, King David was anointed king. So why do you believe that God will anoint you with the vision that you have as a young child, as a teenager, as a young adult, right now in this present moment? Why do you think God will give you this vision if God is not going to equip you with the weapons to slay the giants on your path? It's all a part of the plan. It's painful. It ain't gonna be easy. You're going to be afraid, but it's necessary and you can do it. So that's my message today, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue to work. Let's continue to imagine reality. We are giant slayers. Just as King David defeated Goliath, just as you defeat the big boss on Mortal Kombat, you can defeat these giants on your entrepreneurial journey. You can defeat this deficit. You can defeat this poor credit score. You can defeat anything that you think is hindering you and stopping you from achieving what you want to achieve. You can defeat this writer's block. You can defeat all of these things, all of these giants that's in your way. So if this podcast has benefited you in any way, shape, or form, I ask for two things as always. Number one, please pass it on to a friend who may benefit from it as well. And number two, please leave a 5-star review. Have a great day, everybody. I'll talk to you next week.